Messi and the insane contract offer from Saudi Arabia. Mbeumo to Manchester United for £65 million. Chelsea hijack a Dortmund star from under Bayern's nose. Theo Hernández, now officially an Al-Hilal player. And Betis have somehow found a way to sign Antony. All that, and loads more, in today's episode. But first, you know the drill. Time for the shameless like begging. Smash that like button, 500 likes to boost my fragile ego. And in return, I've got the hottest transfer rumours straight off the press. Let's get into it. When Messi and Ronaldo left Europe, we all shed a quiet tear. It was the end of an era. The greatest rivalry in the history of sport, stretching over 15 incredible years, had finally come to an end. Or at least, that's what we thought. But maybe we spoke too soon. Turns out, we may have underestimated some people. The kind of people with enough money to try and buy history itself. Saudi Arabia clearly decided that signing Ronaldo alone wasn't enough. To complete the picture, they need his eternal rival too. According to several solid reports, Al-Hilal, the main competitor to Ronaldo's Al-Nassr, have launched a full-scale pursuit of Lionel Messi. But this isn't just about signing a superstar. No, their goal is much bigger, to recreate El Clasico in the desert and shift the center of the footballing world to the Middle East. And this isn't some rumor whispered behind closed doors. This is very real and already in motion. Al-Hilal's president, Fahad bin Nafel, has flown directly to the United States with one mission: to find Jorge Messi, Leo's father and agent, and drop an offer on the table that's impossible to turn down. Imagine that meeting. There won't be any long talks about sporting vision or exciting new projects. It'll be one number with 9 zeros and a blank canvas for whatever Messi wants. They don't just want to sign him, they want to get the deal done before the rest of the football world realizes what just happened. So now the real question is, why would Messi accept? His deal with Inter Miami runs until the end of 2025. And the official explanation? Frankly, it's almost cute. Apparently, during his trips to Saudi Arabia as a tourism ambassador, for a modest fee of £20 to £25 million a year, Messi was so impressed by the quality of life, international schools and safety that he's genuinely considering a move. Really? A man who spent his entire career in Barcelona and is now living his best life in Miami, suddenly falling in love with the idea of relocating to Riyadh? It's not even funny. There's only one real reason: money. And not just money, historic generational wealth that could secure his family for the next 10 generations. And let's not forget the ego. At 38, getting the chance to outshine Ronaldo one more time in front of a global audience, in a new league, that's a hard offer to turn down. More tempting than any sunny American fairy tale. So this isn't just any transfer story, this is the final chapter of a legendary saga. It could be the greatest sporting show of the 21st century, or the most cold-blooded business move that finally buries the football we once loved. But what do you think? How does this end? And the big one, if it actually happens, will you be watching the Saudi El Clasico? Be honest, let us know in the comments. Antony's story at Real Betis is shaping up like a classic football fairy tale, one that's now at risk of being cut short by cold, hard reality. The Brazilian, written off and mocked during his time at Manchester United, arrived in Seville and suddenly remembered how to play football again. 9 goals, 5 assists in 26 matches, adored by the fans, and a key figure in the squad. The player is happy, the club is happy, everyone wants the party to continue. But now comes the financial hangover, and the realization that fairy tales come with a price tag. As always, the problem is money. Manchester United, desperate to save face and claw back something from one of the worst investments in their history, have slapped a £40 million price tag on him. Under financial fair play rules, they must sell Antony for at least £32.5 million just to avoid recording a loss on their books. For Betis, a modest club with a very limited budget, those numbers are pure science fiction. So, the club's hierarchy launched what can only be described as theatrical damage control in the press. The president, the sporting director, all repeating the same line. It's a very complicated operation and will need to be very creative. In other words, a message to United: we can't pay that, so don't even ask. And at the same time, a message to their own fans: we're not about to mortgage the club's future, no matter how good he is. It's a classic public play to drive the price down. In the middle of all this though, the most touching part of the story is Antony himself. Fully aware that his wages are far too much for Betis to carry, he's reportedly agreed to a 30% pay cut. The man has found a home, a team that believes in him, a coach he trusts, and he's willing to sacrifice financially to stay where he's finally found happiness. And just when it looked like everything had hit a dead end, suddenly a plot twist. Out of nowhere comes a piano hidden in the bushes, and its name is Johnny Cardoso. According to Fabrizio Romano, Betis are close to finalizing the sale of their midfielder to Atletico Madrid for over £25 million. What does that mean? It means all of a sudden, Betis have money. Not just some money, but specifically the kind of sum that completely changes the conversation. Those £25+ million bring them within touching distance of the magic £32.5 million United are so desperate to hit. So this is no longer about where do we get the funds. Now it's a case of negotiation and compromise. Betis have the cash, United have a burning need to sell, and the player clearly wants to stay. With the proceeds from the Cardoso deal, Betis are now in a position to put forward a serious bid, the kind Manchester United would be foolish to refuse. Remember those summers when Barcelona were practically begging anyone, to take Frenkie de Jong off their hands? When they tried, year after year, to offload him to Manchester United just to plug the holes in their budget? Yeah, forget all that. Things have taken a full 180 in Catalonia. The Dutchman has gone from being the club's most sellable asset to becoming the cornerstone around which a new future is being built. According to multiple sources, Barca are now pushing to finalize a contract extension for de Jong by the end of this week. On the surface, it's all hearts and flowers. President Joan Laporta and Hansi Flick both singing the same tune. Frenkie is a key player. We want him here for the long term. De Jong himself, having weathered years of uncertainty, seems genuinely relieved and happy to stay. The club is presenting this as a deserved reward for a player who's returned to his best form and become essential to the coach's plans. Everyone's smiling. It's the perfect feel-good story. But the real reason for the urgency behind this deal isn't found on the pitch. It's in La Liga's stiff financial compliance offices. Because, make no mistake, this new contract is a financial power move. Here's how it works. By giving de Jong a longer-term deal, Barca can spread the remaining salary owed on his current contract over additional years. That artificially lowers his annual amortization cost on the books, freeing up vital space within the wage cap. And that, in turn, gives Barcelona direct access to the transfer market. The extra room will allow them to register new goalkeeper Joan Garcia. But more importantly, it opens the door for their primary summer target, Nico Williams. So in a roundabout way, keeping de Jong around is what actually enables them to bring in new stars. It also gives Deco and the sporting department hope that the club won't need to make any painful big sale decisions this summer. They might just keep the core squad together, which makes de Jong's story at Barca all the more remarkable. He hasn't just survived being pushed out, he's flipped the narrative entirely. From financial scapegoat to financial savior, his new deal could end up doing exactly what his sale was once supposed to do, save the club's summer. The agreement is basically done, and an official announcement is expected soon, one that will make Frenkie's new status at Barcelona completely undeniable. Another episode in the transfer drama at Anfield, and this time the spotlight's on Ibrahima Konate. Long story short, talks over a new contract haven't just stalled, they've hit a brick wall with the words "Show me the money" written all over it. According to various sources, from The Guardian to Foot Mercato, the issue is painfully simple. Liverpool offered Konate a new deal, but when he and his agents saw the base wage, their reaction was basically, yeah, we're not even tying our laces for that. They're asking for significantly more, and Liverpool, staying true to their "we don't throw cash around" philosophy, are digging in, refusing to set a precedent. But here's why this isn't just another moody player looking for a payday. First off, Arne Slot. He needs rock-solid stability in his core squad, not contract drama like this. Second, Virgil van Dijk isn't exactly getting younger, and Konate is already a proven long-term partner for him. Losing Ibu would break up one of the best centre-back duos in the Premier League. For his part, Konate is acting cool as you like. In public, he's saying all the right things. "I'm very happy at Liverpool, all these rumours are false." But as soon as a journalist presses him on the contract, he flashes that cheeky grin and goes, now that's another conversation. Come on, mate. It's not another conversation. It's called publicly twisting your own club's arm. And of course, Real Madrid are already picturing him lining up next to Rudiger. PSG, true to form, are eyeing another French homecoming, a pure PR jackpot for them. So Liverpool are stuck. Either bend the knee, break the wage structure, and show every other player that ultimatums work, or stand firm and risk a key 26-year-old centre-back seriously eyeing Madrid or Paris. Bottom line, Konate and his camp are playing a bold hand, fully aware of just how vital he is to the team right now. But something tells me that little phrase, "another conversation," will end up being an Anfield meme next summer. European football has just been dealt another massive blow. Theo Hernández, one of the best left-backs in the world, a cornerstone of AC Milan, is leaving Europe, right in the prime of his career. At just 27, an age when players are supposed to hit their peak, he's swapping Italy's Serie A for the Saudi Pro League. According to reports from L'Équipe and RMC Sport, his transfer to Al-Hilal is in its final stages. But this isn't just about losing a left-back. It's the dismantling of a whole flank and a massive void in the dressing room. Hernández wasn't just a defender. He was the driving force down that left side. His powerful runs, his attacking threat, they were central to how Milan played for years. And what's Milan getting in return? Reportedly, just 30 million euros. Sure, they'll make a 10 million euro profit. They signed him for 20 million euros, but from a footballing perspective, it's a disaster. Finding a replacement of that caliber, with that speed and attacking instinct for that kind of money? Almost impossible. This is a huge step backwards for Milan's project. But the bigger problem here goes beyond Milan. It speaks to the power Saudi Arabia now holds. Because this isn't about signing a 38-year-old Ronaldo or Benzema in the twilight of their careers. This is poaching a 27-year-old starter for the French national team, straight from one of Europe's most legendary clubs. And Al-Hilal are making a statement. They're no longer just a retirement league. They're coming for players in their prime. They're even rushing to register Theo for the remaining matches of the Club World Cup. A clear sign they're not here to play around. They want to win now, on a global stage. Theo Hernández is joining a team that already features top names like Sergej Milinkovic-Savic and, reportedly, Simone Inzaghi. This isn't about marketing. It's about building genuine competitive squads. Yes, Theo wanted to stay in Europe, but the Saudi club was relentless, and they made him an offer he simply couldn't refuse. 20 million euros net salary per year. That's life-changing money. And suddenly, players like Theo are faced with a choice that never existed before. It raises a much bigger question. Is chasing Champions League trophies still the ultimate goal? Or are financial offers like these completely changing the game? Al-Hilal haven't just signed a defender, they've bought legitimacy. They've shown the world they can compete for any player, no matter their age or status. And now, European clubs are left wondering, if Milan can lose Theo Hernández at 27, who is actually safe anymore? Cristian Romero is doing everything he can to make sure his Tottenham exit happens this summer. The vice-captain is reportedly unhappy about anything from not having a private jet to issues with the club's medical team. And now he's openly flirting with Diego Simeone in the press, putting both Spurs and new manager Thomas Frank in an impossible position. On one side, you've got Atletico Madrid and Simeone, Romero's Argentinian godfather figure, publicly declaring, "Would I like to sign Romero? Of course, he's a top player." That's not just praise, that's a challenge, aimed straight at Tottenham. A message to Romero: we want you. Start pushing. On the other side is Daniel Levy, who, unsurprisingly, isn't biting. He's slapped a price tag on Romero that reportedly exceeds £60 million. Not so much to start negotiations, but more like putting up a giant sign saying, "Don't even bother." But the real story here is Romero himself, whose recent behavior has resembled that of a sulky teenager. Just look at the signs. Right after Thomas Frank was announced as the new manager, Romero posts a glowing tribute to Ange Postecoglou on social media, praising him for navigating obstacles that have always existed and always will exist at this club. Subtle dig at Spurs, not so subtle warning to the new boss. Then there's the swipe at the medical staff, praising the Argentinian doctors for his recovery, while completely ignoring the Tottenham team. And of course, the "poor me" complaints about not being given a private plane after international duty. Apparently, the horror of flying commercial was just too much. Each of these individual moves might seem small, but together they're building a pretty clear picture. That of a player actively distancing himself from the club. Someone who not only thinks he's outgrown the team, but isn't shy about letting everyone know it, and into this mess walks Thomas Frank. Just imagine his situation. Pre-season's around the corner, he's trying to establish authority, implement his system, and the centre-back he's supposed to build his defence around is out here liking Simeone's quotes and posting cryptic Insta stories. How do you build unity when your defensive leader is essentially undermining your arrival? Convincing Romero not just to stay, but to fully commit, that's an uphill battle. The question isn't so much will Tottenham sell him, it's what kind of club do they want to be? Are they prepared to let even a star player set the tone, push for a move in public, and chip away at the club's authority in broad daylight? Levy's known for being tough, and outside pressure rarely makes him blink. But what if the player stays, against his will? Will Frank be managing a fully fired-up warrior, or a toxic presence in the dressing room with one foot already out the door? We're going to find out very soon. Chelsea had one major headache going into this summer. One relentless line on the to-do list that neither Enzo Maresca nor the club's board could ignore. That problem was the right-wing position. And it wasn't just a luxury target, it was a tactical necessity. The road to solving it turned into a case study in how modern-day Chelsea operates. A couple of failures, followed by a well-timed smash with the financial hammer. First came attempt number 1, Alejandro Garnacho. Chelsea made a push for the Argentinian back in January, only to be flatly rejected by Manchester United. They revisited the idea this summer, but quickly realized the deal was still dead in the water. Then came attempt number 2, Jadon Sancho. This looked far more realistic. United were open to selling, but this time it was Chelsea who pulled out, reportedly put off by the player's high personal demands. Meanwhile, speculation grew that Noni Madueke was no longer in the club's long-term plans, and suddenly the situation became critical. That's when Chelsea moved from Plan B to full-on Plan A and locked in on Jamie Gittins. The first offer, €55 million, was politely ignored by Dortmund. They didn't even bother negotiating. And with Bayern lurking in the background, ready to hijack the deal, Chelsea stopped messing around. They came back to the table and simply accepted Dortmund's all-in demand, €65 million. The problem wasn't solved through charm or long conversations, it was solved with brute financial force. But now comes the big question. What kind of domino effect does this transfer trigger? First tile, the player himself. Gittins hits the jackpot. A move to a Premier League giant and a 7-year contract at just 20 years old. But along with that comes the crushing weight of a €65 million price tag and awkward questions about the dip in form he showed late last season when Dortmund's new manager began benching him regularly. Second domino, Chelsea's squad. Let's be honest, this transfer looks like the final nail in the coffin for Noni Madueke's Chelsea career. His departure now feels almost guaranteed. Plus, with such a huge outlay, Chelsea now have to start offloading other big money assets just to stay within financial regulations. Top of the list, Christopher Nkunku and João Felix. Third domino, the club's transfer strategy. This move further cements the philosophy under the new ownership: identify elite young talent early and go all in, no matter the cost. So yes, Chelsea have addressed one urgent issue, but they've instantly created several new ones. They've got the player they desperately wanted. Now comes the hard part: justifying the fee, managing the expectations, and somehow making room for him in an already bloated wage structure. For the first time in years, the air over Old Trafford doesn't smell of desperation. It smells like strategy. The transfer of Bryan Mbeumo from Brentford, which looks set to be completed next week, isn't just another expensive signing. It's a statement of intent from the new regime under INEOS and, more importantly, the first real brushstroke on Ruben Amorim's tactical canvas. But to truly understand the depth of this move, you have to dig deeper than the price tag. At the heart of it lies Amorim's tactical obsession. His signature 3-4-2-1 system, refined meticulously at Sporting, doesn't just need two attacking midfielders, it demands two hybrid monsters. Players who don't just create chances, but relentlessly press, drift into half spaces, rotate positions, and can run for days. This isn't a position for lazy geniuses. And by bringing in Matheus Cunha and now Mbeumo, Amorim is doing what he did in Lisbon all over again, building a system with perfectly suited interchangeable parts. Mbeumo, with his Premier League background and development under Thomas Frank's high-intensity setup, his ability to play wide or centrally and proven Premier League output, isn't just a good option, he's the perfect one. This move is also a brutal verdict on the previous era, a quiet but clear admission that United's transfer policy was a total failure, with the £100 million spent on Antony as its crowning disaster. United have finally stopped raiding the Eredivisie for overpriced potential and instead gone for fully tested, Premier League proven talent. A move that strengthens the team here and now. It puts a full stop on Jadon Sancho's uncertain future and sends a direct message to Antony. Your time is up. INEOS and Amorim are showing that from now on, decisions are grounded in pragmatism, not marketing hype or cozy agent connections. Credit must also go to Brentford, who've pulled off the deal of the decade, turning a £6 million signing into a £65 million asset. They didn't just negotiate, they dictated, securing easily triggered bonuses and smashing their transfer record with ease, leaving the £40 million sale of Antony in the dust. A textbook example of how a smart, modern football club should operate. In the end, United are paying big, and the pressure on Mbeumo, who will be earning around £150,000 a week, will be immense. But for the first time in years, the spending doesn't reek of panic. It feels like cold, calculated investment, not into a name, but into a system. And while it might be the most expensive gamble of the summer, it's also the most sensible one.